People think success is loud. Applause, friends, celebration. But real success often begins in silence. Ethan did not notice when his circle started to shrink. At first, it felt normal. Busy days, late nights, less time to talk. He was building something important. A career, a future, a version of himself he respected. While others relaxed, Ethan worked. While others complained, he planned. While others waited, he moved. Slowly, messages stopped coming. Group chats went quiet. Invitations disappeared. Not because of hate, but because paths changed. Ethan told himself it was temporary. I'll reconnect later, he thought. But later never came. As his goals became clearer, his world became smaller. Early mornings replaced late nights. Books replaced parties. Silence replaced noise. And in that silence, something strange happened. Ethan felt strong, focused, calm, but also alone. He noticed it during small moments. No one to share good news with. No one to complain to after a hard day. No one who fully understood his choices. People said, "You're doing great," but they didn't see the cost. Success was not breaking him. Loneliness was testing him. Psychology explains this. When priorities change, relationships change too. Not everyone can follow you to the next level. Ethan didn't feel angry. He felt empty, and that emptiness asked a quiet question. Is this the price of becoming who I want to be? Ethan began to notice patterns. The people who once called him every day now replied with short messages. Busy. Another time. Maybe next week. Weeks passed. Nothing changed. At first, Ethan felt confused. He asked himself, did I do something wrong? He replayed conversations in his mind. He searched for mistakes, but there were none. The truth was simpler. He had changed, not in attitude, in direction. When he talked about goals, people felt uncomfortable. When he talked about discipline, people felt judged. Not because he judged them, but because his life reflected choices they avoided. Psychologists say this creates silent distance. No argument, no drama, just separation. Ethan stopped explaining himself. Explaining felt tiring. He learned that growth is often misunderstood. People prefer familiar versions of you, not evolving ones. One night, Ethan sat alone in a cafe. The place was full, laughter everywhere, but none of it touched him. He realized something painful. Loneliness is not about being alone. It is about being unseen. He missed simple things. Random calls, shared jokes, feeling included. Success gave him control, but it took away comfort. And comfort is addictive. Ethan faced a hard truth. If he wanted to move forward, he had to accept being misunderstood. The question was no longer about success. It was about endurance. Could he walk this road without needing constant approval? Ethan stopped looking for understanding. Not because he stopped caring, but because he learned a new skill. Self-support. When no one clapped, he kept going. When no one noticed, he stayed consistent. At first, this felt heavy. Human beings are social. We need connection. But Ethan realized something important. Not all connections are healthy. Some people love your comfort zone. Very few love your growth zone. So he built a routine. Morning silence. Clear goals. Focused work. Silence became his teacher. In quiet moments, Ethan learned his fears. Fear of missing out. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of becoming cold. But silence also showed him strength. He was disciplined without pressure. He worked without praise. This created internal motivation. Psychology says this is the strongest kind. It does not depend on others. It survives loneliness. Ethan still felt empty sometimes. But the emptiness changed. It was no longer painful. It became space. Space to think. Space to build. Space to grow. He understood a deep truth. Loneliness is not the enemy. Dependence is. And for the first time, Ethan felt grounded. Not popular, not celebrated, but stable. And stability is rare. Ethan's work started to pay off. Results appeared. People noticed his success. Compliments returned. Wow, you've changed. You're doing amazing. But something fell off. The same people who disappeared now wanted access again. Messages came back. Invitations returned. But the feeling was different. Ethan felt distance. Not from them. From the version of himself he used to be. he realized a hard truth. People respect results more than effort. They respect outcomes, not sacrifices. While he was struggling alone, few cared. Now that he was winning, many watched. This created conflict. Ethan wanted connection, but not at the cost of his peace. He asked himself, do they want me, or what I represent now? Success attracted attention, but not always understanding. Psychology calls this conditional acceptance. You are valued for what you produce, not who you are. This made Ethan cautious. He listened more. He spoke less. Loneliness returned, but in a new form. Not isolation. Protection. He was learning to guard his energy. Because not everyone deserves access. Success gave him options. Loneliness taught him boundaries. Both were necessary, even if they hurt. Ethan began to choose differently. Not everyone got a reply. Not every invitation was accepted. This was new for him. Before success, he chased connection. Now he protected peace. He noticed how some conversations drained him. Small talk, hidden jealousy, unspoken comparisons. These interactions left him tired. Success requires energy. Loneliness preserves it. This realization changed his behavior. He stopped explaining his goals. He stopped defending his choices. He understood something powerful. Silence is not arrogance. It is clarity. Psychologists say boundaries reduce emotional overload. Ethan felt lighter, calmer, more focused, but the cost remained. Weekends felt long. Victories felt quiet. No loud celebrations. No shared excitement. Sometimes he missed chaos. Noise can feel like connection, but he reminded himself, noise is not depth. Peace is not emptiness. It is space without pressure. Ethan accepted the trade. Less people, more meaning. Loneliness no longer felt like punishment. It felt like a conscious choice. And that changed everything. Time passed. Not fast. Not slow. Steady. Ethan noticed something surprising. He was no longer afraid of being alone. Silence did not scare him anymore. In fact, it sharpened him. Without constant opinions, his thinking became clearer. Without distractions, his decisions became stronger. Psychology explains this well. When the mind is quiet, intuition speaks louder. Ethan trusted himself more. He stopped asking for validation. He measured progress by effort, not applause. Loneliness trained his focus. Like weight for the mind. Heavy at first, powerful later. He began to enjoy simple moments. Morning walks, reading alone, planning in silence. These moments built emotional independence. And emotional independence creates confidence. Not loud confidence, calm confidence. The kind that does not seek attention. Ethan realized something important. Strong people are often lonely. Not because they are better, but because they require less external approval. Loneliness was no longer a weakness. It became a foundation. Success opened new doors, new environments, new people, new conversations. Ethan was no longer invisible, but he was different now. More aware, more selective. He met people who respected his silence. People who listened, not just talked. This felt rare. He realized something important. Not all people disappear because of success. Some appear because of it. But trust came slowly. Loneliness taught him patience. He no longer rushed connection. He watched behavior, consistency, respect, understanding. Psychology says deep bonds form slowly. Fast connections often fade. Ethan accepted this. Quality replaced quantity. A few honest conversations felt better than many shallow ones. Loneliness did not isolate him forever. It refined his standards, and that was progress. Ethan no longer feared loneliness, but he also no longer chased it. He understood balance. Work had its place. Silence had its place. People had their place. This balance felt mature. He stopped thinking in extremes. Not everyone or no one. Not noise or isolation. Just alignment. He noticed how his energy changed. When he spoke, it had meaning. When he listened, it had patience. Loneliness had trained his emotional control. Psychology calls this emotional regulation. Strong people can be alone, without feeling empty. They can be with others, without losing themselves. Ethan respected his boundaries, but he also allowed warmth back in. Slowly, carefully, without pressure. Success no longer felt cold. Loneliness no longer felt heavy. Both became tools. Used correctly. One evening, Ethan sat alone again. But this time, the feeling was different. No tensión, no sadness, no fear, just clarity. He thought about the past, the people who left, the nights he doubted himself, the silence that felt too loud. All of it had a purpose. Success had taken people away, but it had also taken illusions. Illusions about friendship, illusions about approval, illusions about happiness. Ethan understood something deep. Loneliness is not the price of success. Confusion is. When you don't know who you are, success feels empty. But when your values are clear, loneliness feels temporary. Psychology supports this. People with strong identity handle isolation better. They don't lose direction. They don't beg for attention. Ethan no longer asked, "Why am I alone?" He asked, "What am I building?" And that question gave him peace. Ethan understood the truth at last. Success does not ask if you are ready. It changes you anyway. It removes noise. It removes comfort. It removes people who no longer fit your path. What remains is you, your discipline, your values, your mindset. Loneliness was never meant to break him. It was meant to reveal him. Strong people are not loud. They are calm. They do not chase attention. They build in silence. And when results appear, they do not need to explain themselves. Ethan was no longer afraid of walking alone because he knew where he was going, and he knew why. Success had a price. Loneliness was part of it, but peace was the reward.